My ex wants to talk privately, she said. You don't need to worry. She was right. I didn't. The champagne cork hit the ceiling with a dull thud as Monica squealed with delight, foam cascading over her hands onto our hardwood floor. I was already moving toward the kitchen for a towel before she even called for one. That was us. She made messes with enthusiasm. I cleaned them up with patience. Hello friends, before I continue the story, please support the channel by becoming a subscriber and giving the video a like. Also, let us know in the comments where you're watching right now. 3 years at Patterson and Hale, and they finally made me senior associate, she shouted, pulling me into a champagne-scented hug. We're celebrating. Anywhere I want. Your treat. I laughed, genuinely happy for her. My treat for your promotion? Emotional labor tax, she said, kissing my nose. You get to bask in my success. That was Monica's humor. Sharp, self-aware, always dancing on the edge of something that could cut if you held it wrong. After 4 years together, I'd learned to handle it carefully. We went to Marcello's, the Italian place where we'd had our first date. She ordered the lobster risotto and a bottle of wine that cost more than my car payment. I didn't mind. She'd been working 70-hour weeks for this. She deserved to celebrate. You know what this means, she said, twirling her fork. I'll be traveling more. Client meetings in Boston, depositions in Chicago. But the money, babe. We could finally get that house we talked about. The house, the future, the life we were supposedly building together. I reached across the table and took her hand. I'm proud of you. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and something flickered across her face. Not quite guilt, not quite pleasure. Something in between. Who is it? I asked, more out of habit than suspicion. Just work stuff, she said, flipping the phone face down. Can't escape it even tonight. The phone buzzed again and again. You should get it, I said. Might be important. She hesitated, then picked it up. Her thumbs moved across the screen with practiced speed, and I watched her face transform. The professional mask she wore for clients. The one that was all controlled warmth and strategic charm. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, it's just Daniel. The name landed between us like a stone in still water. Daniel, the ex-boyfriend from law school. The one who'd broken her heart by choosing a clerkship in New York over their relationship. The one she'd spent 6 months crying over before we met. The one whose name still appeared in her stories with a frequency that had always felt like an unhealed wound. Daniel, I repeated, keeping my voice neutral. She set down her fork, and I could see her choosing her words. He's going through something. His father just died. He reached out because, I don't know, I guess I'm one of the only people who knew his dad. We all had dinner together once when we were dating. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I meant it. Death is death. Grief is grief. He asked if we could meet up, just to talk. He's really struggling, and you know Daniel, he doesn't have a lot of people he opens up to. The waiter arrived with our entrees, and the interruption gave me time to feel the shape of what was happening. She wasn't asking permission. She was announcing a decision and waiting to see if I'd object so she could frame my reaction as the problem. When? I asked. Tomorrow night. He's only in town for a few days handling his dad's estate. Where were you thinking of meeting? Her eyes narrowed slightly. I don't know. Probably just get coffee or drinks. Why? Just curious, I said, cutting into my chicken. Seems like heavy stuff for a public place. Well, I'm not inviting him to our apartment, she said, her tone sharpening. What do you want me to do, Ethan? The man's father died. I'm supposed to tell him I can't spare 2 hours because my boyfriend is insecure. There it was. The reframe. My completely reasonable question about logistics had been transformed into a character defect. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I can hear it in your voice. That tone you get. I set down my knife and fork. Monica, your ex-boyfriend, the one you were in love with, the one who broke your heart, is asking you to meet him privately while he's emotionally vulnerable. I think I'm allowed to have questions about that without being called insecure. She took a long drink of wine. You know what? Fine. You're right. I'll tell him no. I'll tell him that my boyfriend doesn't trust me enough to have a conversation with someone I used to know. Is that what you want? The entire restaurant seemed to shrink down to our table. Other diners faded into background noise. I looked at the woman I'd spent 4 years loving, the woman I'd supported through bar exams and bad bosses and family drama, and I saw with sudden clarity that she'd already made her choice. This conversation was just theater. I trust you, I said quietly. I don't trust the situation. There's a difference. No, Ethan, there isn't. Either you trust me or you don't. And if you don't, then maybe we have bigger problems. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. I picked up my wine glass and took a slow sip, buying time while my mind raced. I could fight. I could lay out every rational argument for why this crossed a line. I could point out that grief makes people do impulsive things, that Daniel had a history of coming back into her life when she was finally moving on, that just talking was how most affairs started. But I'd already lost. The moment she'd framed my discomfort as a failing, the moment she'd made me the obstacle to her compassion, the fight was over. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay, yeah, go meet him. I trust you. The suspicion in her eyes was almost funny. She'd been ready for a battle, and my surrender had robbed her of it. Really, you're right. His dad died. You should be there for him. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand, relief flooding her features. Thank you for understanding. I knew you would. This is why I love you. We finished dinner. We went home. We made love in our bed, in our apartment, in our life together. And the entire time, I felt like I was watching from somewhere else, observing a man who didn't yet know he was already gone. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Monica had an early court appearance and was gone by 7. I sat in the silence of our apartment with a cup of coffee and let myself feel the full weight of what I'd decided. I wasn't going to spy. I wasn't going to follow her. I wasn't going to check her phone or demand updates or sit anxiously waiting for her return. I was going to leave. The decision settled into my bones with a rightness that felt like coming home. I'd been building a life with someone who had just demonstrated that my feelings were negotiable, that my peace of mind was less important than her need to be someone's emotional support, that I was expected to shrink myself to fit the space she allowed me. I started in the bedroom. I pulled my suitcase from the closet, the large one I used for work conferences, and began filling it with clothes. I took only what was mine, leaving behind the sweater she'd given me last Christmas, the watch from our anniversary. I wasn't angry. I wasn't trying to make a point. I was simply extracting myself with surgical precision. Bathroom. I gathered my toiletries, leaving the shared space suddenly lopsided. My electric razor. My cologne. The prescription bottles with my name on them. Living room. My laptop. My books. The framed photo of my parents that sat on the shelf. I left the pictures of us together. They belonged to a version of me that no longer existed. The hardest part was the kitchen. We'd cooked together in this space. I'd made her coffee every morning for 4 years, dark roast, splash of cream, no sugar. I'd memorized her preferences the way you learn a language, through immersion and repetition. Now I was leaving without even a note. But what would a note say? You chose him? You made me feel small? I'm worth more than this? The silence would say it better. I did a final walkthrough. My key to the apartment went on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker. I'd paid through the end of the lease. She could handle it from there or find a roommate. My name wasn't on the utilities. I took one last look at the life I was abandoning. The couch we'd picked out together. The throw pillows she'd insisted on. The paint color we'd debated for weeks. It all looked like a museum exhibit now. Life of a man who didn't know when to leave. 2019-2023. I shouldered my bags and walked out. My brother Cameron lived 20 minutes away in a condo he'd bought during the divorce. When I called him from the car, his response was immediate. Doors open. Beer's cold. Don't explain until you're ready. That was Cameron. He'd been through his own betrayal 2 years ago. He understood that some wounds need silence before words. I was unpacking in his guest room when my phone started buzzing. Monica. I looked at the screen and felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Not even satisfaction. Just a vast, empty calm. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text. Where are you? Your car is gone. Then another. Ethan, this isn't funny. What's going on? I silenced the phone and finished unpacking. The voicemails started around 8 o'clock. Ethan, I'm home. Where are you? All your stuff is gone from the bathroom. Did something happen? Call me back. I deleted it. Second voicemail, 90 minutes later. Okay. I'm getting worried now. This is crazy. Did we have a fight I don't remember? Is this because of Daniel? We literally just talked. Nothing happened. I told you nothing would happen. You said you trusted me. The fascinating thing about betrayal is how it recalibrates your perception. What she couldn't see, what she might never see, was that it didn't matter whether anything physical happened with Daniel. She'd already chosen him over us the moment she made my boundaries negotiable. Third voicemail, her voice cracking now. Ethan, please. I'm scared. Did I do something wrong? Just tell me what I did wrong. We can talk about this. Whatever it is, we can fix it. Cameron knocked on the doorframe. You good? Yeah. Need anything? Silence. He nodded and disappeared. I turned off my phone. The next morning, I called my boss and explained I was dealing with a personal emergency. She gave me the week. I spent it in systematic reconstruction. I opened a new bank account and rerouted my direct deposit. We'd kept our finances mostly separate, one of the few smart decisions I'd made so extraction was clean. I went to the gym every morning until my muscles screamed. Physical pain was clarifying. It had a beginning and an end. It responded to effort. I called a therapist and made an appointment. Cameron had given me the name. Trust me, he'd said. You think you're fine until you're not. Get ahead of it. On day 3, I turned my phone back on. 47 text messages. 19 voicemails. 3 emails. I scrolled through them like reading a case study in the 7 stages of grief. Denial. This is insane. You're being insane. We didn't even fight. Anger. You're a coward. Running away instead of talking like an adult. I thought you were better than this. Bargaining. I canceled my meetings tomorrow. We can go to couples therapy. I'll do whatever you want. Please just come home. Depression. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I keep walking past your empty closet and I feel like I'm dying. How can you do this to someone you love? And finally, scattered between the others, justification. I talked to Daniel for 2 hours. That's it. We got coffee. We sat in a public place. He cried about his dad. I gave him a hug. That's all that happened. You left me over a HUG. I read them all. I felt the pull of them, the familiar gravitational field of her need. For 4 years, that need had been my compass. Monica needs support. Monica needs patience. Monica needs me to be smaller so she can be bigger. I deleted every message without responding. The emails were more sophisticated. She'd had time to think, to craft arguments. Subject, please read this, Ethan. I don't know if you're getting my calls or texts. I hope you're safe. I hope you're okay. I've spent 3 days trying to understand what happened. I've replayed every conversation we've had for the past month. The only thing I can come back to is Daniel. I need you to understand something. Nothing happened. Nothing was ever going to happen. He's my past. You're my future. I thought you knew that. But I'm starting to realize that maybe I didn't handle it right. Maybe I should have invited you along. Maybe I should have talked to him on the phone instead. I was so focused on being a good person, on being there for someone in pain, that I didn't think about how it would make you feel. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please come home. Please let's talk about this. I love you. Monica, it was a good apology. It hit several right notes. But it also revealed everything. Even in her contrition, she couldn't quite admit the core issue. She'd still framed it as a failure of logistics, not respect. She'd still centered her intention over my experience. I didn't respond. The second email came 2 days later. Subject, I know now, Ethan. I talked to Cameron. My stomach dropped. I called my brother immediately. What did you tell her? Relax. She showed up here. I didn't let her in. She asked if you were okay. I said you were fine and you'd reach out if you wanted to talk. That's it. And she lost it. Started crying on my doorstep, saying she didn't understand, that she deserved an explanation. I told her that sometimes silence is the explanation. Then I closed the door. Jesus, Cam. What? You want me to lie? You want me to tell her you're pining away, ready to forgive her if she just says the magic words? You're out. Stay out. He was right. He was absolutely right. I finished reading the email. I talked to Cameron. He wouldn't tell me anything except that you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. Even if I'm not. I know now what I couldn't see before. This wasn't about Daniel. This was about me. About how I've treated you. About all the times I made you feel small so I could feel big. I'm seeing a therapist. She's helping me understand my patterns. The narcissism, the need for validation, the way I use other people's needs to avoid dealing with my own emptiness. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I couldn't stand to let you set a boundary. Because I needed to prove I was more important than your discomfort. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to read this. I just need you to know that I finally understand. I'm sorry. Monica, I read it 3 times. It was perfect. Every word a therapist would approve. Every insight exactly right. And it changed nothing. Because here's what she still didn't understand. I didn't need her to apologize. I didn't need her to grow or change or finally see the light. I needed her to have never put me in that position in the first place. An apology after the fact is just a down payment on doing it again. I closed my laptop. 6 weeks later, I signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. It had exposed brick, tall windows, and absolutely no history. I filled it with furniture I picked out alone. I hung art I liked. I cooked meals for one and didn't apologize to anyone for the mess. Cameron came over for the housewarming. We ordered pizza and drank beer on my balcony while the city hummed below us. You seem good, he said. I am good. Monica's been texting me. I took a long drink. And she asked me to ask you to meet her. Just once. For closure. What did you tell her? I told her I'd pass along the message and that's it. So, message passed. I watched the traffic below. Red lights bleeding into white lights into the gray wash of evening. Tell her no. You could tell her yourself. I could. But then it becomes a conversation. And a conversation means I still care enough to engage. I don't. Cameron nodded slowly. Cold. Necessary. We sat in comfortable silence. For what it's worth, he said eventually. I think you did the right thing. The old you would have stayed. Would have gone to couples therapy, worked on it, given her another chance. And she would have done it again in some other way. People like Monica don't change because you ask nicely. They change when consequences finally cost them something they can't manipulate their way out of. You sound like your therapist. I am my therapist. 50 grand in sessions and I'm basically a licensed professional now. I laughed. Actual, genuine laughter. Felt strange and good. The first real test came 3 months in. I started seeing someone. Rachel. We'd met at a bookstore, cliché, but true. She'd been reaching for the same novel I was. We'd laughed about it, gotten coffee, discovered an easy rhythm. She was everything Monica wasn't. Quiet where Monica was loud. Steady where Monica was volatile. She asked about my day and actually listened to the answer. She had her own full life and didn't need me to be an audience for it. Tell me about your last relationship, she said one night over dinner. I'd been expecting this. It ended badly. My fault for staying too long. That's refreshingly self-aware for a man. I had a good teacher. My therapist. She's helped me see my patterns. Which are fixing, accommodating, shrinking myself to make room for someone else's chaos. Rachel took a sip of wine, her eyes thoughtful. And with me. With you, I feel like I can just be. I don't have to manage your emotions or walk on eggshells or wonder when the other shoe is going to drop. That's what healthy feels like, she said. It's boring until you've lived without it. Then it's everything. We went back to her place that night. And for the first time in months, I didn't think about Monica once. The real closure came in year 2. I was at a work conference downtown. My company had rented out a hotel ballroom for a networking event. Open bar, heavy appetizers, the usual corporate pageantry. I was talking to a potential client when I saw her. Monica. She was across the room with a group of people I didn't recognize, laughing at something someone said. She'd cut her hair short, lost weight. She looked good, successful, like the version of herself she'd always been chasing. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, everything stopped. I could see her making the calculation. Should she come over? Should she wave? Should she pretend she didn't see me? I made it easy for her. I held her gaze for exactly 2 seconds, gave a small, polite nod, the kind you'd give a colleague you vaguely recognized, and turned back to my conversation. No smile, no warmth, no invitation, just acknowledgement that we existed in the same space, and it meant nothing. When I glanced back 10 minutes later, she was gone. Rachel was waiting for me at the bar. Everything okay? You looked intense there for a second. Ex-girlfriend is here. The one from the bad breakup? Yeah. She studied my face. You want to leave? No, I said, surprised by how much I meant it. I'm exactly where I want to be. She smiled and handed me a drink. Good answer. The final message came on what would have been our 5-year anniversary. I didn't remember the date. I deleted it from my calendar years ago. But Monica remembered. Monica-chan, I know you won't respond. I know I don't deserve a response. But I need you to know that I saw you at the conference last month. You looked happy, really happy. And I realized that I've been holding on to this idea that maybe someday we'd find our way back to each other. But you've moved on. Completely. And I'm still here, still processing, still trying to become someone worthy of the second chance I'll never get. I'm genuinely happy for you. I hope she knows how lucky she is. And I hope you know that leaving me was the kindest thing you ever did for me. It forced me to finally look at myself. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you have a beautiful life. I read it once. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger, not out of pain, but because it was addressed to someone who didn't exist anymore. The man who'd loved Monica-chan, who'd shrunk himself to fit her chaos, who'd worried about her feelings more than his own. That man had walked out of an apartment 4 years ago and never come back. I was someone new now. Someone who knew that love without respect is just servitude with better marketing. Someone who understood that the right person doesn't make you choose between your peace and their needs. Someone who finally put himself first. Rachel was in my kitchen making breakfast when I came out of the bedroom. She'd stayed over. Her toothbrush was in my bathroom. Her favorite coffee was in my cupboard. We were building something slow and steady and real. Morning, she said, kissing my cheek. French toast okay? Perfect. She studied my face. You good? You seem far away. Just thinking. About how sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who can't see your worth. She tilted her head. The ex. Yeah. She reached out last night. And I deleted it. Because some stories end exactly where they're supposed to. Rachel smiled. That's very zen of you. I've had good therapy. We ate breakfast on my balcony in the morning sun. The city was waking up below us. Traffic was building. People were starting their days, carrying their stories, their wounds, their hopes. And I was here, free, whole, finally done carrying someone else's weight. My phone buzzed. A text from Cameron. Dinner this weekend? Want you to meet someone. I smiled and typed back. Absolutely. Bring her by. I'm happy for you. And I was genuinely uncomplicated happy. Because here's what I'd learned. You can't heal in the same environment that hurt you. You can't grow while you're still tending someone else's garden. You can't find yourself while you're busy being what someone else needs. Sometimes love means staying. And sometimes it means walking away. I'd finally learned the difference. The silence after Monica wasn't empty. It was full. Full of possibility. Full of peace. Full of a future that belonged entirely to me. She'd been right that night at dinner, though not in the way she'd meant. I didn't need to worry, because I was already gone. Thank you for watching all the way through. There's another story to your left screen. You'll enjoy it more than this one.